an apartment, and that's what's probably going on in the Williamston area, Wheatfield Township, so that would be a concern. Again, it shows some rotation here, and I can show you how we can do a storm track that, and you'll see there's some rotation with this system, but it continues to race off to the east. Those are the areas that could get that strong downburst of wind, and that's exactly what it is. It's a downburst. The heavy rains bring down the strongest winds that are over that area, and that does straight line damage. That easily can bring power lines down, trees down, branches down. So that has moved across southern parts of the Lansing area and through southern parts of Okemos, and now towards the Williamston area. They're probably getting some very noisy winds and rain in that region. And again, it's just a general, what we call a meso circulation, meaning small in nature and kind of broad when it talks about aerial coverage. So it does indicate there's some very gusty winds there, but they may not be in the form of a tornado or rotation with that storm system. But certainly it is intensifying, and I got away from it there, but you see that red arrow now with that system, and I want to regroup here and just move this over so I can zoom in a little bit more to that storm system. And now we are going to go back and look at it, and of course that seems to be intensifying, and if I put on our storm track, it's now giving us a good indication of a much stronger rotation in all of this. So this could lead to something that might be tornadic. It would be in the early stages if it is, but it's again south of Grand River and then north of I-96. That's where rotation would be, and where the gustier winds will be. We have no tornado warning issued as of this time from the Weather Service for this, but that doesn't mean it's not gusty winds and equivalent to a small tornado when you have winds gusting to up to 80 miles an hour. All of these storms happening in severe thunderstorm warnings that are across Eaton County, Clinton County, Shiawassee County, Ingham County, Livingston County, all under that intense circulation and wind. So they have severe thunderstorm warnings issued for it. And if this rotation starts to show signs of coming to the ground, that will be quickly transferred over to a tornado warning. So the strong winds are very strong through the Williamston area. That would be where you're seeing the strongest winds, possible rotation. I would urge anybody in Williamston, then Weberville, south of Weberville to Fowlerville, to seek shelter somewhere from these very gusty winds. It's a very strong circulation pattern, very strong winds, and I'm getting some reports of homes shaking with the wind in that area.
Mic check 1 2 3. Mic check
so
1 2 3.
If you're in that area, please, from what I'm getting firsthand here in the weather office, is a very strong rotation, and we'll keep going through all of this for you. But again, the system that started in Grand Rapids at one time had a tornado warning really is affiliated with what I'm showing you here on the screen, and that is this thunderstorm with its very intense wind field. And we're also getting the hail reports and, of course, a lot of lightning and the reports there. We do have a tornado warning now for the Williamston area.
Just got a tornado warning until...
Colton has the latest on that.
Until 10 p.m. We have a tornado warning northeastern Ingham County until 10 p.m. Radar indicated tornado 6 miles east of Fowlerville, moving east at 50 miles per hour, Indy.
6 miles west of Fowlerville?
6 miles west of Fowlerville near Williamston.
Okay, so we are getting 6 miles west of Fowlerville near Williamston. Possible tornado rotation that I have been showing you now for about 10 minutes, and I'm going to go right back into that so you can get a good idea of what we're looking at. It actually strengthened on the air while I was showing it to you, and here's where we're at now. We've got these two different colors touching each other. It's telling me that these raindrops are going in opposite directions with height. It gives me rotation, it gives me wind shear, and it's pretty intense when you see these colors this bright. So this is most likely a tornado that may have even come on the ground. We'll have to wait
Andy,
and see.
It looks like, looking at radar, that there might be some debris being picked up on radar very close to I-96, just to the southeast of Williamston. Okay,
so you might have heard Colton there. He's on microphone. Debris possibly being indicated by radar. We have the capability with the new radars, the dual poles, to take a look at any debris that might be coming out of the tornado, and it can show you that debris flying around as little specks. And that is the case southeast of Williamston, north of I-96, and just west of Weberville. So that would put it in Leroy Township. Leroy Township is the area of concern that goes all the way into Weberville. If you have that, the tornado warning is issued until 10 o'clock, so it's for another 25 minutes. This is a very strong rotation. It wasn't as strong when I first started showing you this a little while ago, but it is now. And the Weather Service radars are picking up on this, and this is why the tornado warning has been issued. So if you are east of Williamston, if you're along I-96, along Grand River, if you're into Weberville and eventually Fowlerville, shelter's where you need to be. Lowest level of your home, away from windows, outside walls. Take a radio with you, take your cell phone with you so you can stay up to date on what's going on. But this rotation is pretty impressive. And you can see when I put the storm tracker on this, it's really giving us a good idea of that rotation being right where we just talked about. And when you see these red arrows, it's no longer a meso spin. This is a possible tornado on the ground. And as Colton just said, the radar is picking up some possible debris in the air. It could be tree branches, something as simple as that. The area is not heavily populated with homes like it would be in some neighborhoods. Colton, is there anything else to add to that?
A 60-mile-per-hour wind gust was reported in Mason not too long ago. That's all I'm seeing at this point. But the Weather Service did say that that is likely a tornado debris signature that was picked up on radar that I mentioned between Fowlerville and
Okay, so that there was a debris signature in southeast sections away from Williamston. Again, some of those roads in there might be Lynn Road.
We just got a tornado warning for Livingston County as well.
And now the Weather Service that control of Livingston County has put Livingston County in a tornado warning. So, yeah, the sirens are going off, I'm just told, which would make sense. And we've been watching this rotation for the last 20, 25 minutes. So the tornado warning has been expanded now into Livingston County, which would make logical sense. This is a significant rotation of wind that's not dying down any, and it's headed into a more favorable air mass. I mentioned it several times this evening that the further south and east you go, the air is not stable. It's very unstable. So the line of showers and storms will continue that direction and to stay the strength they are, if not strengthen. What we're looking at here is just all winds. I'm not looking at anything other than that, other than which way these raindrops are moving and at what speed determine some of those wind speeds. And of course, it couldn't be more clear cut. This is a pretty well-defined tornadic signature. And when you get your coefficients showing debris flowing through the air, the radar picking up these small pieces, or large for us, pieces of roof or what have you, tree branches. When that's easily detectable, then they know the tornado has touched down on the ground. It's not confirmed till they get there, but obviously sirens are going off throughout Leroy Township, throughout downtown Williamston, Weberville, and now I'm sure Fowlerville has initiated their sirens as well since that tornado warning has been issued, and it's about ready to go into that county. So it's approaching Weberville, and again, if you are, and we've got a second rotation now developed with this system. This is obviously a very large thunderstorm complex with multiple rotations. The first one near Williamston is much more impressive than the latest, but we are seeing this go through the area, and you can see it now near Weberville, and that warning there. Our big concern is for those between Weberville and between Williamston for the strongest rotation and debris that's been indicated by radar. Waiting for ground truth, spotters are into that area. We're seeing now with the last sweep of the radar that this has now jumped into the Weberville area. So it sweeps and it takes about 3 to 4 minutes to update all the data as the radar is circulating and going up and down. So it wants to scan every section of that storm, and these storms are going 45,000 feet up in the air, so it takes a few minutes to get that update. But right now the rotation looks to be along I-96 just south of Weberville, along I-96 just south of Weberville, and the tornado warning does continue for Livingston County as that rotation is there. I want to go back to regular radar. We'll start this again from the beginning and show you that that area of showers and storms have only increased. The amount of lightning has increased. That tells me these are not weakening. You see the red shaded area for that tornado warning. We'll lose the lightning, and you'll be able to see that box a little bit better as those warnings are now issued and that line continues to go off to the east. Still a very heavy line of showers and thunderstorms southwest of Lansing. So if you're in Charlotte, Eaton Rapids in particular, and then now you're going to start talking about southern Ingham County going in towards Albion, Mason, and downtown Jackson probably within the next 30 minutes as the strongest line, the strongest winds are coming into that region. The rotation still continues to be off to the eastern part of Ingham County and western Livingston County. I'm going to just scroll in something here and just a little meteorology for you. As you look here and see how there's like this inverted V, or like if you want to count it as like a little mountain pointing up towards Williamston, another one pointing up. And this gives us a good indication, just looking at the radar, that there's an influx of wind into here and giving us a possibility of rotation. So we can find that really simple by measuring the raindrops. And there you see that rotation, which was very weak when it went through South Lansing, but there was some reports of maybe some rotation when it went over Kalamazoo Street. Got stronger and stronger where it has become a tornado southeast of Williamston, and now this looks to be east of M52. So it probably went basically down maybe the Lynn Road area, I-96 at times. I have no reports yet of anything going on the highway, but the strongest winds are where those shades meet between the red and here even this blue shade, and that is where the rotation is. And again, we can show it to you just by putting on our storm tracker, and you see where that rotation is now. So we're concerned about all of this. There is a light rotation north of Williamston, and this is the nature of the weather that we had today, the heat, the humidity, the warm front situation that's over the top of us. You get tornadoes, but they're not coming from individual thunderstorms. They are coming from a line of storms. It's almost like when if you've ever used a canoe and you paddle and you see that behind your paddle, those little eddies that you produce. Most of the water is just going one way, but you might find a few areas that are spinning up behind your oar or paddle. And it's kind of similar with this line of storms. On an individual basis, inside all of this, the winds may come together. And the same notion, when you have a line of storms, we've seen some rotations wiped out tonight. But this is not the case now here in Weberville and parts of I-96.
Hey, Andy, we can actually switch to Max 2. What I pulled up here on the screen here is what we were talking about, that correlation coefficient, Andy, where you see those brighter colors. That is where the radar is showing that there could be debris being lofted up into the sky from a possible tornado right near Weberville. So that's what that is showing right there. Correlation coefficient is the meteorological term for it.
Yeah, years ago when you didn't have we have dual Doppler radar now. It does all sorts of fancy things. And one thing that it was able to do when they developed it is to pick up on that low-level debris flying around and differentiate it between raindrops. And you see that's what's going on here. So it could be something as simple as tree branches embedded inside that storm now. Hopefully, with not as many homes across that area, hopefully there's nothing more than maybe a shed or a swing set, but that's what that does. It picks up on that, and you can measure that area. And the larger it gets, you can then say, well, we have a much larger tornado here if it's been developing a lot more debris. Again, we can go inside the storm and measure winds with the rain, which way it's going and how fast, and determine how fast that totally is.
The National Weather Service is confirming that there is a large and extremely dangerous tornado located near Williamston. This was at 9:37, so just a little while ago.
Okay, so that must be what we were watching here. So hopefully everybody heard Colton at the Weather Service is calling this a large and dangerous tornado. So that's on the ground. We're showing you the debris here. Colton called up our coefficient to show that debris. So if you're in the Weberville area, Fowlerville area, got to be in shelter right now. You got to get down lowest level you possibly can. I don't know what debris that is. In general, it's usually going to be branches or things that can balloon up. But now we're talking about a fairly large tornado, and we saw that circulation get, as we were covering this evening, it went from very little circulation in South Lansing to by the time it got to Williamston, it had what we call a mesocirculation, and then it quickly turned into a tornado as it reached the ground. So this rotation does continue, and our concerns are not only the general lichen rotation that is near Williamston, but also what has now quickly moved from Weberville to in between Weberville and Fowlerville. And it's right along I-96, might even be south of I-96 now in that area. Wallace Road is kind of the differentiator, last road in Livingston County before you get into Ingham County coming westward. So all those areas, large farmland mainly, but that would be where the circulation is. It looks to be less than a half mile south of I-96, but we still have our concerns back out there in Williamston as well as this whole line of storms continues. Again, we're going to continue with this coverage and the rotation of these storms and this large tornado. We're waiting. The newsroom is trying to gather information. We'll be talking to them shortly about this and what they've heard. Obviously, we have received numerous phone calls of having sirens off and running in Ingham County, across Williamston, all the way now into Livingston County. So in general, we're seeing several different circulations across the county, and that's obviously producing those tornadoes that have been reported. We're not sure if those were separate circulations, but it sounds like they may have been. What we're finding out, though, is one circulation was declared by the Weather Service as particularly large and dangerous tornado on the ground moving into Livingston County. There is a tornado warning in that area till 10 o'clock. Nothing has expired in the Ingham County area as well. So that means we're still seeing rotation on the ground. I think using my eye and looking at radar, we might be seeing a little less rotation, but this is still very, very strong across parts of mid-Michigan. Backing out, again, they've had tornado warnings up near Flint. There's very strong winds there, but the key circulation is here in mid-Michigan. This is the same winds that went through Okemos and knocked out power, went through the Lansing area knocking out power, and all the way off to the northwest as well. Numerous power outages have taken place and will continue to do that. And I know with all this heat, that's not a good thing. But the one thing this is doing is putting an end to the heat and humidity, and that will be much better as we go into the overnight period and be able to look at this all differently when the temperature is back in the 60s and it doesn't feel like somebody just walked into a sauna. This is this regular Doppler radar still showing this significant line that stretches from Port Huron through White Lake Township where the radar is located, and then down the Marshall and Albion area and continues to go off to the east. Anybody on the back side of this are pretty much cleared. I don't see anything more than just some thunderstorms, but I think things are much better. Lansing northward now. As you go southward, it's going to get worse. Jackson County, same thing. We'll have to anticipate that maybe there'll be more warnings issued for southern counties as well. The Jackson area is under a severe thunderstorm warning. Northwest sections of Washington County under a severe thunderstorm warning as this heads southeast. That is going to happen, I think, as it goes for the next hour off to the southeast. They will, in advance, put out a thunderstorm warning because the history of this has been extremely heavy rain, intense lightning that has caught houses on fire. It's had wind gusts and downbursts that have been close to 80 miles an hour. And now we've had history of tornadoes as was expected and talked about throughout our newscast this evening. And that's what the rotation is through eastern parts of Ingham County. Of course, Williamston having one of the bigger tornadoes in all of mid-Michigan not too long ago. We don't know the extent of this tornado, but by radar, it certainly did look to be a very large system. And we're still seeing, as I mentioned before, when we see these inverted Vs where there's winds coming in from one area, a little dry slot as well, and that's the area of concern that you would be looking for maybe some rotation. So we can go to the part of radar that shows us what is happening, and we're still seeing a little bit of rotation here right along I-96 or just south of it, and I think we're well south of Fowlerville when this is happening. But you still see that rotation in the radar showing us the wind direction of the raindrops, which way they're going, and when you put a tracking mechanism on it, we're still getting some rotation in the area. So we're watching it all. Obviously, hail reports have come in on a sporadic basis. I can't even tell you the amount of rain that has fallen. I have not had time to check that out, but I would guess that most everybody who's been in this band of rain is in excess of an inch, maybe up to 2 inches of rain across the region. So that is certainly an area of concern. I don't know if anybody's up in our booth that can switch on over to, if you could give us over to the power outage maps. Do you have that right now? We'd like to see that if you can. Yeah, so here's BWL. with their shaded areas. And again, as we've talked about numerous times, the recirculation was down in southern parts of Lansing, along I-96, Kalamazoo Street, so we're seeing the outages there, that's for sure, across those areas, staying just north of I-96, so that would correlate with that. Now,
Here, Andy, I can take over talking for a second so you can get a drink of water there. But yeah, tens of thousands, over 135,000 consumers energy customers without power at this time. We were just showing you the Lansing Board Water of Light. Also seeing a ton of power outages. Not surprising given the straight line winds that we were seeing. We did also just get a flood advisory that was issued for Ingham County. That is mainly because of all the heavy rain that we've seen. We are getting some more unconfirmed damage reports in Williamston as that tornado warning storm that was there. I don't know if we can confirm it at this time, so I don't want to say it on air just yet, but there are some unconfirmed damage reports in Williamston.
City of?
Yes, it says in Williamston.
Okay. Because
that's coming from the Ingham County Emergency Manager. I don't want to say what was passed along there just yet until we get that confirmed, but it does look like there was some damage.
I think when we were showing you the tornado moving through south of Williamston, it's got to be somewhere in the area there of either Lynn Road, south of Grand River. Those areas had the strongest circulation. I reported not too long ago that I've had some texts of people saying their houses were shaking in the Williamston area, since I'm from there, and they felt that it might have been the wind causing that. So this is all adding up, obviously. We can go back to radar, and I want to show you the heaviest part of some of these storms again. They are now going out of Eaton County into northwest Jackson County. Obviously, Battle Creek, Albion, it's not so much Battle Creek as it is Marshall, Albion, and those will be the areas of probably some hail is falling, as well as those gusty winds. Their orange shaded counties are all under those warnings, and these are all thunderstorm warnings in advance because they know these storms have gusty winds. You can kind of see the bow shape of that push. This was the area that came through Lansing, came through Williamston, and now is showing us with that bow shape that there's decent straight line winds as well. So there could be damage with these straight line winds coming out of Ingham County into northern Jackson County, and that warning is issued for Jackson County. If we lose the radar, we can see what's left of the warnings, and it is no longer any tornado warnings for this, but there's certainly a lot of gusty winds. And again, our concern is now going to be focused back to the southwest of Lansing as we get towards Tompkins, and you get there to Albion, all of that in parts of Calhoun County and northwest Jackson County. Again, if you're down south, they've got warnings out already in Lenawee County in advance of all these storms because they know the history, and they're not going to weaken, folks. They're not going to let up any as they go into southeast sections of mid-Michigan. These are going to remain very strong. I'm happy to report things are a lot better off to the northwest, other than, as Colton just told you, the power outages reaching now in the 150,000 range for consumers, and equally very high for DTE now, as well as the Board of Water and Light. Now, I don't know, I'm asking in the control room if we ever got the video of these storms as they went through DeWitt, if that ever got put together, because I'd love to show you that. This is, okay. Okay, do you know if anybody's going to that?
That we have a crew on the way to this.
We have a crew going into the Williamston area. We're hearing some large damage reports now in the Williamston area, involving people as well. Obviously, if homes or businesses are hit, you're most likely going to have people involved. But we have a news crew on the way there, so you please be patient. We will get a signal out of there, if possible, obviously, as soon as we can. Okay, they do have the video of how this all started, looking north out of DeWitt. Okay, this is Mason first. I want to show you the video out of Mason first. And everybody, this is like it was last night. When you have this warm, humid air, you get these repetitive flashes. Now, if you've watched me, you know when you talk about repetitive flashes like this, it's a good indication there's a lot of wind inside that storm. And now this is DeWitt, and this is as that lightning started to develop to the north, they suspended, if not canceled, the football game. I'm not sure about that. We'll let Fred handle that. It got canceled completely. So that happened, and then the sirens went off. Same thing in Mason, those areas. Lansing had sirens going off. Obviously, Williamston, where it looks like there has been some damage done. We're not going to speculate on how much, but the reports we're getting that are unconfirmed, and I can't share with you, does sound important. I can tell you that, and I can tell you that our news staff is putting that all together, and we'll hear from them shortly. We have crews on the scene, so this is a significant tornado that went through eastern parts of Ingham County. So they're on the way, and certainly by news time at 11, we're going to have a lot of reports about the damage because a lot of this will be out of the area, and you don't want to put anybody in danger going out there. You saw the lightning. Our concerns for this is now northern Jackson County and then over there towards Albion as well. That's your strongest part of it. The area there may even had some hail with it. We did have initially some of the hail reported out of Ionia County was over an inch, almost up to ping pong size hail. So that probably did some damage. The heavy rains bring down the trees and the branches, and now I would imagine when we all wake up, the power outages from Grand Rapids, where they had a tornado earlier, to Detroit, maybe in the hundreds of thousands. If we're already up to almost 150K through our Consumers Energy area, it's probably going to be a lot worse as it heads to the southeast. So that'll be another concern out of the system post bad weather, but still seeing all the strong storms off to the southwest. And I want to just do a little bit of investigating here to see if there's any rotation. And there may be something trying to develop, maybe not rotation, but certainly some gusty winds west of Jackson here. That could be just an outflow from all of this, but that's where the gusty winds are being, almost parallel to I-94 through Parma, those areas. So be on alert if you're now in Jackson County. I know you've heard us talk for the last, well, how long have I been talking? Over the last few hours.
A while, Andy, a while.
That it was all north, but it's not all north anymore. It's continuing off to the south. We've even had power outages here frequently, but things have settled down in that department. Plus, we are equipped with some pretty large generators so we can continue the coverage of this severe weather. Here's how it all started. First tornado warning came out almost near downtown Grand Rapids, and that was about 8:30. And then it just accelerated. You see the lightning has not changed any. It's still going into an air mass that's very supportive for strong weather. The orange shaded counties are all thunderstorm warnings, and that now all stretches all the way down to Adrian. And in advance of this, the Weather Service knows this is not weakening. They know what they've got on their hands, so they're trying to give everybody advance notice to find their place of shelter. And you see the storms are still pretty significant. I think we'll find more pulsing going on off to the southwest of Jackson, excuse me, as this continues to go that direction. Doppler radar is quieted down across the metropolitan Lansing area. Obviously, that is where the storms were at their peak, and now headed off to the southeast and getting into our southern communities. Again, we're going to stick with this only because we've seen numerous spin-up tornadoes, and obviously one, if not two tornadoes in the Williamston area. We were kind of tracking two different circulations. One of them was, in the words of the Weather Service, large and dangerous as it was going out of that county in towards Fowlerville and past south of there. So this is all rain right now. We'll take a look and see if we can find any rotation left. I doubt there is at this point, but doesn't mean that more will not develop. So we will go to our velocity scope. We are still seeing some significant rotation as a possibility here as you get towards Heartland and eastern parts of Livingston County. And then southwest sections near Jackson is all straight line winds. And we'll put the track on here just to see. There's minor rotations now. These are what we call meso lows. They're kind of just circulations inside the storm. One of them south of Stockbridge, one of them northwest of Tompkins Center, those areas. So we'll keep an eye on these because this is what it looked like before the tornado went through Williamston. So we're keeping an eye on all of that. We did have some large hail reports. And I always find this significant. When I say hail was an inch, maybe more, what does that mean? And it means it was up maybe to the size of a ping pong ball, something like that. So I'm going to show you that graphic as soon as I go through all of my graphics.